So today we're going to talk about another method to solve systems of equations. It's called substitution. So substitution is a method of solving systems of equations by substituting equations within one another. Okay, so we're going to take a look at this. So step one, it says solve one equation for and then x or y. Okay, step two, it doesn't matter which variable you solve for. Okay, I know you guys are used to solving for y, so it might be easier to stick with that, but you'll see in the following examples. So step two, substitute this expression into the other. And solve for the variable. And then step three, substitute your answer into the revised equation and solve for the other variable. Okay, so let's start. We're going to try number one, and we're going to start with step one. So let's look here for the first one. Solve one equation for x or y. In this case, both equations are solved for y, and that's okay. So we need at least one equation to be solved for one of the variables to be alone. Okay, so solve one equation for x or y. I'm also going to say, so come back up here, I'm going to say in parentheses, get one, or I'm going to say get x or y alone. That's what that means. So this case, y is alone, so we're good with step one. Step two, substitute this expression into the other equation and solve for the variable. So see how y equals 4x minus 1 here? I'm going to substitute this piece, 4x minus 1, I'm going to substitute that in for y. Because it tells, in the other equation, because it tells me that y equals 4x minus 1. So I'm going to say 4x minus 1, I'm substituting in for this y, equals, and then just my regular 2x minus 5, my equation. So 4x minus 1 equals 2x minus 5. Okay, so now we're going to solve for x. So we're just going to combine like terms. So minus 2x, it doesn't matter which one you do first, but I'm going to get rid of the x's first. So 4x minus 2x is 2x, minus 1 equals negative 5. Okay, we're going to add 1 to both sides. We're almost finished. So 2x, and then this cancels, equals negative 4. And the last step is to divide each side by 2. So x equals negative 2. So I know that x equals negative 2. So that's my step 2. Step 3, it says substitute your answer into the revised equation from step 1 and solve for the other variable. So this is what I'm going to tell you. You can plug this into whatever equation you want. This x, whichever one looks easier. Both of them look equally easy. So I'm going to choose the first one. Y equals 4x minus 1, and I'm substituting x in here. Okay, let me draw that like this. I'm substituting x in. So I'm going to say, okay, well, y equals 4 times negative 2 minus 1. Y equals negative 8 minus 1, which is negative 9. So remember for graphing, when we did, when we solved the systems by graphing, the answer was the intersection, right? So the answer was like this. Let's say negative 2, negative 9 is somewhere down here. That means that, let's say these two graphs like this, that means that this would be the point of intersection. Like this point, let's just say is negative 2, negative 9. That's what this means. That's what we just found. But we found it without using a graph. So instead of using a graph, we use something called substitution. So the way we write this answer is not x equals negative 2 and x equals negative 9. It's negative 2, comma, negative 9. Because that's the point of intersection. If we were to draw it, it would look like that. Okay? All right, let's try the next one. So, step one, solve one equation for x or y. all that means is get x or y alone. Is there an x or a y alone? Yes, the first equation has y by itself. So we don't even need to worry about step 1. It's already done. Step 2, substitute this expression into the other equation and solve for the variable. So I'm going to say 6x, I'm going to substitute that in wherever I see a y in my next equation, because it's saying y equals 6x. So I'm going to say 2x plus 3 times y, which is 6x, equals negative 20. You see what I did there? I just substituted this 6x in for y, wherever I saw y, because it says y equals 6x. Okay, so 2x plus 3 times 6x is 18x equals negative 20. Can I combine terms on this side? I can, because they're both x's, right? And we didn't cross the equal sign, so we're not going to do the opposite. We're just going to combine like terms like normal. So 2x plus 18x is 20x equals negative 20. To get x alone, we divide by 20. So x equals negative 1. All right, now doesn't the top equation look easier? So I'm going to plug, doesn't matter which equation you use, I'm going to say y equals 6x, and I'm going to plug negative 1 in for x, because that's what I found for x. So y equals 6 times negative 1 is negative 6. Don't forget we write it as a point, because if we were to graph these two equations, x and y, those two answers are the point of intersection. So we need to write it like as a point, like that. So that's your answer, negative 1, negative 6. Okay, number 3. I'm going to have you guys do 3 and 4. Okay, so now we're going to look at something a little different. We're doing the same thing. We're still going to substitute one equation into the next, but look at these two equations. Our step 1 says to solve one equation for x or y, which means get x or y alone. So in this case, we don't have an x or a y alone. So we're going to look for the equation with the variable that's already by itself. So what I mean by that is we have a 2x, a y, a 5x, and a 3y. Do you see how the y is the one without the number in front of it? There's no number in front of that y. In that case, this is going to be way easier to get y by itself than to get any other variable by itself. So let's get y alone. The reason for that is because it's only one step. We don't need to divide at the end. We're going to get y alone by subtracting 2x from each side. We've done this many times, right? So this is y equals negative 2x minus 2. Now you're going to plug this piece in wherever you see y in the next equation. It has to be in the second equation. So we're going to get y by itself for one equation, which was the top one. And now we're going to plug negative 2x minus 2 into the bottom equation for y. So let's do that. So I'm going to write 5x plus 3y equals negative 8. So all I did was copy this equation over here, okay? And you see that y, we're going to plug negative 2x minus 2 in for it. So wherever we see y, which is right here, we're going to plug in negative 2x minus 2 equals negative 8. Okay, now look at this piece right here. We're going to distribute. Okay, so we have 5x. Now 3 times negative 2. Let me do it this way. So I'm going to bring down the 5x. 3 times negative 2 is negative 6x. 3 times negative 2 is negative 6. Equals negative 8. Now, go back to the very beginning of the semester. Remember how we collected like terms on one side first? This is good practice because for your final you will have stuff like this again, where you have to distribute and then go here. Now we can collect like terms on this side of the equation first. 5x minus 6x. That's negative 1x, or negative x. Minus 6 equals negative 8. So I'm going to add 6 to both sides. That cancels. And I have negative x equals negative 8 plus 6 is negative 2. Then I'm going to divide by negative 1 to both sides. And I have x equals positive 2. Okay. So which one do you think is easier to plug in? I'm going to say it's probably easier to plug it into this equation, right? You can plug it into any one. You can plug it into this equation, you can plug it into this equation, or you can plug it into this equation. But we just need to plug in 2 for x, okay? So let's do that. We're going to say y equals negative 2 times 2 minus 2. We just plugged in 2 for x. See how we plugged in 2 here for x. So y equals negative 4 minus 2, which is negative 6. So remember, we write this as a point. We're going to write our answer 2 comma negative 6. So we have x comma y. All right. I'm going to do 7. And then I want you guys to do 9 and 10, okay? We'll skip 8, 6, 8, and 11 because that's a lot. But let's do number 7. Okay, so which one's easier to get alone? This. That's easier to get alone. So we're gonna do x plus 5, y equals 4, and we're gonna subtract 5y. Then we're gonna say x equals negative 5y plus 4. And now we're gonna, so we just took the first equation, we looked at this equation, we got x alone. The reason we got x alone is because x is by itself here. So it's easy to get it alone. We have this equation now, and we're gonna plug this in to our next equation, our bottom equation, wherever we see x. So it's gonna look like this. 3 times x, which is negative 5y plus 4, plus 15y equals negative 1. So distribute, that's negative 15y plus 12, 3 times 4 is 12, plus 15y equals negative 1. Okay, look what happens on the left-hand side. Look what happens on the left-hand side. Okay, negative 15y, positive 15y. What happens there? Well, negative 15 plus 15 is 0, right? We're left with 12 equals negative 1. Is that a true statement? No, that's false. So this is no solution. If it's no solution, what does that mean about the lines? That means they're never going to touch. Remember, we're trying to find a point of intersection, right? So no solution in this case means that they're parallel and will never intersect. Remember when we graphed, it looked like this. It looked like this, right? And then we're like, oh, okay, that's parallel, so it's going to be no solution. Okay, all right, let's do number 8, because I didn't realize that was going to be no solution. Okay, let's try one more. So the first thing we do is we look for the easiest thing to get alone. The easiest thing to get alone is x because it's by itself. So x plus 4y equals 0. I'm going to get x alone, so I'm going to subtract 4y to both sides. So x equals negative 4y plus 0, which is just negative 4y. So I got my first equation, I got the x alone, so I'm going to plug this, I'm going to plug that negative 4y into my next equation for x. So I'm going to say, okay, 3 times x, which is negative 4y, plus 2y equals 20. So now I'm going to multiply this piece. 3 times negative 4y is a negative 12y, plus 2y equals 20. Combine like terms on this side. Negative 12y plus 2y is negative 10y equals 20. Divide by negative 10. And y equals negative 2. Okay, now we can plug it into any equation to find x. I think it's easiest to plug it in this equation, huh? Because this is saying x equals negative 4y. Well, we just found out y was negative 2 right here. So negative 4y means negative 4 times negative 2. Because we found out y was negative 2. So x equals 8. Negative 4 times negative 2 is 8. Remember, we always write this as a point because it's the point of intersection. So that's our answer. Okay, so try 9 and 10. Also try here 3 and 4.